In our previous episode, we detailed the Great Flame which emerged from the north with such brutal ferocity that it threatened to overcome the combined might of elves and men despite their supposed dominance of Middle-earth. The aftermath of this fourth great battle in the War of the Jewels was dark, as the Free Peoples were now hard pressed on all fronts, with little more than their valour and strength at arms to hold back the tide. In this bleak epoch, a man and elf were to reignite the hope which had urged the elves ever onwards despite the doom of Mandos. In this episode, we will cover the tale of Beren and Lúthien, and the unsurpassed courage of a man and elf to make their way into the very depths of Angband. If you wish you had the aid of elven craftsmanship in your day-to-day life, well, we can at least offer the next best thing. Upgrade your daily inventory this holiday season with our sponsor Ridge at ridge.com/ww. First, check out the Ridge wallet. This shrinks the amount of material needed to carry cards and cash, giving you a sleek and stylish wallet that is not only smaller than even the smallest wallet we had, but comes with a lifetime guarantee. It's made from military-grade materials that would make even Celebrimbor jealous. There's space for 12 cards, and there's a band and clip system if you want to attach cash to the side as well. But you'll need your keys too, so use the Ridge key case. Another sleek little gadget that's small, looks good, and holds 6 keys in an organised fashion. No more messy clumps of keyrings. The lifetime guarantee covers this too, and Ridge offers a 99-day money-back guarantee on their products if you somehow don't prefer them to your old setup. Both make great gifts with the holidays coming along, and you can get up to 40% off in their holiday sale until December 22nd if you go to ridge.com/ww, link in the description. Among the tales of sorrow and of ruin that come down to us from the darkness of those days, there are yet some in which amid weeping there is joy, and under the shadow of death light that endures. And of these histories most fair still in the ears of the elves is the tale of Beren and Lúthien. We pick up our story in the immediate aftermath of the Dagor-nuin-Giliath, 2 years after the initial conflict had devolved into a stalemate. The Isle of Tol Sirion bore upon it the finely wrought fortress of Minas Tirith, which had resisted this initial assault under the capable stewardship of Orodreth, nephew of Finrod. Still, the island, which guarded one of the most assailable routes into Beleriand, was never far from the gaze of Morgoth. So the Dark Lord sent his most able servant, the greatest of the Maya who turned aside from the light, Sauron, to take it. Orodreth could not withstand the assault, despite his best efforts, and withdrew from the island to Nargothrond, with what forces now remained to him. What had once been a fair isle was despoiled by Sauron, and would be known as Tolin-Gaurhoth, a haven for his werewolves, a home to foul magic. On this Isle of the Werewolves, Sauron began to consolidate his power with his 2 mightiest servants, Drauglin, the sire and mightiest of the werewolves, and his very herald, the vampire Thoringwethil. However, in the highlands of Dothonion, the resistance of Barahir and his companions was unrelenting, despite their increasingly difficult situation. The outlaw band consisted of Barahir's son Beren, his nephews Baragund the Elder and Belegund the Younger, Rauruin, Dairuin, Dagnir, Ragnar, Arthad, Urthel, Hathaldir the Young, Gildor, and Gorlim the Unhappy. This group caused untold damage to the forces of Morgoth in the area from their base of operations in Tarn Eluin, infuriating the servants of the Dark Lord. In response, they were unrelenting in their attempts to hunt down the final remnants of this proud people. Their methods were brutal, as they effectively treated their prey as mere animals, but they were continually frustrated in each attempt to bring Barahir's band to retribution. The company continued to fight for some 5 years, killing an immense number of the orcs. Yet this could not continue indefinitely, as courage alone could not turn back the unending orcish tides that desolated their homeland. In FA 460, one of the last men of Ladros left in Dothonion, Gorlim, son of Angrim, went out to hunt while the company was camped in the south of Ladros. Before the coming of the Great Flame, this had been Gorlim's home, and while out on the hunt, he went to see the ruin of what had once been his home. He gazed through a window and was treated to a vision of his wife, Elinel, who was supposedly dead. This vision had dire consequences for Barahir's company, as Gorlim decided to search for his wife in his heartbroken state. He came out of hiding and was soon waylaid and taken captive by orcs, who brought him in chains before the lieutenant of the Dark Lord, Sauron. The latter's cunning in those days was unmatched, and he poured honeyed words into this forlorn man of Ladros, promising that Eilunel would be returned to him. All that would be required of him was to give up the location of his friends. With a heavy heart, Gorlim agreed and revealed the position of Barahir and his companions. Yet it seemed that in these days, betrayal could only be rewarded with further betrayal. Sauron told Gorlim that the vision he had come across was naught more than a spectre that he had devised. His wife, the most precious thing Gorlim had believed to be left to him, was already dead. "Nonetheless, I will grant thy prayer," said Sauron, "and thou shalt go to Eilunel and be free of my service." And so Gorlim was executed without mercy, as Sauron turned his eyes upon one of the greatest thorns in the side of the armies of Morgoth. Sauron's forces ambushed the men of Barahir upon the Tar na Luin, as they were slain to a man, except for Barahir's son, Beren. Fortunately for father and son alike, Beren had been engaged in an errand away from the camp when the orcs assaulted and brutally destroyed the company. Beren came upon the remains of his father and was stricken with grief. He knew that such a great man required a fitting burial. Yet his father's hand had been severed, and with it, the greatest heirloom of their house, the Ring of Barahir, was lost without any chance of reclamation. As Beren set himself to the task of raising a cairn for his fallen father, Gorlim appeared before him as a spectre. The traitor revealed his misdeeds and attempted to make amends. He informed Beren of what had happened to the ring, and then bid him farewell before returning hopefully to the side of his slain wife. With this information in hand, Beren would return the favour in kind for his orcish foes. He hunted down the orc band responsible for the murder of his father and friends, killing the orc chieftain Gorgol the Butcher. In doing so, he achieved what solace he could attain given the circumstances, and reclaimed his father's severed hand with the Ring of Barahir with it. In the aftermath of this successful ambush, Beren would make a life for himself as he slaughtered many of Morgoth's servants. He became a friend of the birds and animals of the forest during his 4 years in which he acted as a solitary outlaw. Beren would not hunt or kill any of these beasts, reserving his strength at arms solely for the servants of Morgoth. This son of Barahir feared not the final embrace of death, only that he would be taken captive by those he sought to receive the ever-growing price now put on his head. His position within the only land he had known as home became untenable when Sauron began to pursue him. A price had been placed upon his head by Morgoth, which was matched by the bounty placed upon the crowned head of Fingon Felagund. Beren proved so effective in his guerrilla tactics that Sauron was granted an army to track down the last of Barahir's company. He would supplement this force with werewolves, among them the greatest of their number, Draugluin, the sire of their kind, and such fell beasts that contained within their being spirits of a horrifying nature, which Sauron had bound within their bodies. Therefore, Beren was forced to flee south through the horrors of the Ered Gorgoroth and the forests of Nan Dorgotheb into Doriath, where he was able to reach the girdle of Melian. The Ered Gorgoroth, and the Dongotheb in particular, would have caused any lesser man's imminent and brutal slaughter. In this dark and terrible place, the offspring of Ungoliant now made their home, trapping all living beings who foolishly delved too deeply into the area. These spiders were monsters of such a dark and ancient nature that they were born in the long dark before the sun's rising, and they hunted Beren silently throughout his journey. Yet he would endure and make it through relatively unscathed to Doriath, where he would meet and become instantly entranced by Lúthien. Lúthien was a princess of the Sindar and the beloved daughter of the Elvish king Thingol and the Maya Melian. This chance meeting would begin the greatest love story in all of the great ages of Middle-earth, while simultaneously setting in motion events that would have devastating consequences for the race of elves and the Edain. Lúthien, also called Tinuviel, the Nightingale by Beren, was known as the most beautiful of all the children of Iluvatar, embodying the grace and perfection most characteristic of the Elvish peoples in their heyday. She was the only daughter of one of the greatest Elvish kings in all Beleriand. and a being of immense power due to her mother being of the Maya. So it came as a shock to everyone that she fell in love with an Edain outlaw who had nothing more to his name than his courage and strength at arms. The news garnered a particularly frosty reception from Thingol, who tacitly accepted their betrothal should Beren meet the bride price. This price, however, was one even a man of Beren's stature and courage could not possibly hope to attain, as Thingol wished to receive a Silmaril from Morgoth's Iron Crown in return for his daughter's hand. Beren had once known anguish and despair, yet Lúthien provided the salve for such woe, and even faced with the impossible, Beren would not allow the darkness of his fate to overwhelm him so long as the chance of a life with Lúthien lay before him. For little price, he said, do elven kings sell their daughters, for gems and things made by craft. But if this be your will, Thingol, I will perform it. And when we meet again I shall hold a Silmaril from the Iron Crown, for you have not looked upon the last of Beren, son of Barahir. With this talk of defiance, the quest of the Silmaril began, and Beren immediately made haste to Nargothrond. Here he asked for the counsel of Finrod Felagund, the elf who owed his very life to Beren's forebear Barahir. Felagund knew that such oaths as the one he had sworn on that bloody day could not be set aside so quickly, and as such, he passed to his brother Orodreth the crown of Nargothrond. The sons of Feanor, who dwelled within his kingdom, Celeform and Curufin, watched proceedings keenly, as Finrod, Beren and 10 loyal companions set out along the Narok, and travelled to its very source within the Falls of Irvin. There they came upon and slaughtered a band of orcs. Afterward, Finrod utilised all of his craft to disguise the company as the now deceased orcs, to potentially pass through the Tol-in-Giliath without being detected. Yet the cunning of Sauron was too great. Having had his suspicion aroused by their conduct, the greatest servant of the Dark Lord stripped the companions of their disguises and took them prisoner, following a long and protracted duel with Finrod through song. In the deepest pit of the fortress, Sauron sent his werewolves to devour the brave companions of Finrod one by one, to ensure they divulged the purpose of their quest. Yet they remained loyal. Before long, the only 2 survivors were Beren and Finrod. When the time came for Beren to be eaten, Finrod Felagund, unwilling to let the son of the man who had saved his life be murdered before his very eyes, attacked the werewolf with his bare hands. The struggle was fierce, with the unarmed Finrod eventually striking down his foe, though at a high cost, as he was mortally wounded in the encounter. In the deepest, darkest pit of the very fortress he had once constructed, one of the wisest and most beloved of the Noldor's life ended, but he kept his oath with his final breath. Hope had just been extinguished for the son of Barahir, yet upon his capture, Lúthien had felt a crushing weight upon her heart, and set out in pursuit of her great love. Unfortunately, she met Noldorin princes Celegorm and Curufin alongside their hound Huan. The princes offered their help, but Celegorm fell in love with the princess, captured her and took her to Nargothrond. Yet the great hound Huan had become entranced by the elf and spoke aloud for the first time. He granted her his counsel and helped her to escape. They made with great haste to Tol-in-Giliath, arriving at the hour of Felagund's death. This arrival drew a cruel smile to the lips of Sauron, who foresaw the great reward he would receive for Lúthien's capture. Morgoth would look upon his servant with great favour if he were to bring such a prize. Beren's quest now hung upon a knife's edge, with no more than the Hound of the Valar Huan standing in Sauron's way. Yet despite the desperate situation, hope remained for both Beren and Lúthien, even if it was little more than a fool's hope. However, this is the story for our next documentary on the history of the First Age. The next few videos in this series will be dedicated to the continued battles of the War of the Jewels, but we're planning to cover the battles of many other fantasy, sci-fi and space opera universes, so make sure you have subscribed and pressed the bell button. Please consider liking and sharing, as it helps immensely, and don't forget to comment. We will try to read and respond to every comment, as we want to know what you think about this video and which videos you hope to see in the future. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.